You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Man, we are here once again, and we have a special guest. We're going to talk to the guy who started MasterTalk, this amazing YouTube channel. But it's not just that. He is also an entrepreneur himself. He's a great speaker, but it's more than that. And that's why we have him on our show today, Mr. Brenden. He is going to tell us a little bit about himself. And I just want to welcome you first to I Am Refocused Radio. Say, how you doing, man?
Yeah, doing great, Shamaya. Thanks so much for having me, man. It's great to be here.
You are a communication coach and YouTuber of MasterTalk. It has 25,000 subscribers and growing, because I just subscribe right now. You really help people to get educated on the skill set, how important that is, not in just their personal life, but also in their career. So before we dive into that, today's topic will be how to become a top 1% communicator in your industry. Let's first learn a little bit more about yourself, man. Where you come from and how did you get into this communication coaching?
Yeah, for sure, brother. So I grew up in a city called Montreal in Canada, which is a few hours off New York City, and I'm still based there to this day. And how I got into MasterTalk was purely by accident, actually, Shamaya. When I was in college, I went to business school, and I did these things called case competitions. Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So while other guys my age were playing basketball or rugby or football or some other sport you probably wouldn't see me playing, I did presentations competitively, and that's how I learned how to speak. But as I got older, what happened was I started coaching a lot of the students on how to communicate ideas effectively. And it was mostly through volunteering because they needed help winning these competitions too, Shamaya. So basically, after all of that, I had the idea for MasterTalk, the YouTube channel, because I realized that everything I was sharing with the audience wasn't really available for free for the world. So all my students had access to me back in college, but the world didn't. So I started making videos on communication, and it just blew up in a way that I never thought it would.
When you see how people do need this type of skill, because we all do. I'll raise my hand first. All right, I'm going to embarrass myself. We all need to develop this skill set because it's crucial. It's crucial when you make first impressions. It's crucial when you're just trying to illustrate what it is you're trying to do in life. Why is it so important for people to take time to learn this? So
the way that I would see this is that communication is not just about getting more money at work. It's not just about getting the next promotion, getting the next sale in our business, Shamaya. It's the way we talk to our family. It's the way that we argue with our family. It's the way that we order food at a restaurant and make the waiter's day. It's the way that we meet strangers at a park or strangers when we travel to different places in the world and we meet new people. Communication is every moment of our life. And once we realize, Shamaya, that communication is the vehicle that allows us not just to achieve our dreams, but to lead a more fulfilling life, that's when we start to take it more seriously. And I'll give you a couple of strains of thought here. The first one is communication with our loved ones. How do you set expectations, boundaries, so people know what you'll tolerate and what you won't? In the context, and that could be in the context of relationships. Another piece is sales presentations at work. How do you stand out in your promotion interviews so you can get more money to feed your families? Or even just experiencing the world. You know, life is lived better together than alone. So when you meet new people, how do you use communication to make new friends, new friendships, so you can have a deeper, more fulfilling life with the people around you? And that's the way that I think about it across those different set of areas too.
And when you started this YouTube channel, MasterTalk, was that idea something that you had to build with a team, or did you do it by yourself at first? What was your mission that you were trying to explore when you decided, hey, let's make this YouTube channel with all this kind of content? How did you organize that?
For sure, brother. Well, I mean, I wish it would sound as cool as it does now. Now I got a production team, all that stuff. But when I started, just to paint the picture for people, Shamaya, I was a 22-year-old kid, broke, on my mother's couch, making videos with my phone because I couldn't afford anything better. I still hadn't worked my corporate job yet. So I was pretty much doing this on my own, just making videos for fun every week, just showing up. And you'll see on my YouTube channel, the first year is literally just me on a couch and the video sucks, the audio sucks, it's all blurry. That's why I like to leave up my old uploads so people see the evolution over time. And then after the first year, what happened is I made a decision to go pro. And the reason I did was because initially MasterTalk didn't really have a vision. It was more about, I'm graduating from college. I don't really have time to coach these people anymore. The new people entering this program, because I'm going to be working a really hectic paying job at IBM. So I said, okay, well, I might as well just make videos for these 7 people who I think will watch it. And that's how it started. But as time went on, Shemaya, the vision for MasterTalk evolved a lot more into something much more profound, which is how do we help every human being on earth master communication? Because I felt the next Elon Musk probably doesn't have access to a communication coach either. So that's why I said, okay, how do I create these YouTube videos? So after the first year, I hired my best friend to do all my production. So I took basically 25% of the money I was making at IBM and I just gave it to him and I said, make my videos. And we blew up the channel together. So that's what happened.
When you start seeing the formula that worked for your audience, how did you maximize that opportunity to retain that information and then maximize your reach?
Yeah, for sure, brother. So here's the way I think about it. Because I think a big part of content creation that a lot of people miss, Shemaya, is really the idea of distribution. And I'll be honest, because I always say this on the record. Yeah, sure, my account's a little bit bigger now. But when I started the channel, my first 1,000 subscribers, I did beg for them. I messaged 1,500 people, one at a time. And I said, hey, I'm starting this YouTube channel. I really need to get to 1,000 subscribers because I have a mission. I want to create these free YouTube videos on communication. And the reason I grew so quickly was because I have an army, a village of people who wanted to see me win. So, and I'll tell you why that was the case. Because the content mattered to somebody. I wasn't just trying to make prank videos. I was just trying to jump up and down and do somersaults. There was really something important behind it. Because I had coached, at that point, probably 75 people for free from the college. And everyone knew who I was. So when I went there and I said, guys, I'm helping you guys all the time. Can you just do me one favor and help me promote this? They all banded together and made sure I got that 1,000 subscriber count. And then the rest was up to me. So I definitely think there's a big part of that content creators don't think, which is if you create great things, people will come. And that is not true, Shemaya. I don't think that's true at all. Unless it's over like 15, 20 years. I think if you want to be successful, you need to do both. You need to have a really good product, and we'll talk about that. But the other piece is also distribution, getting fans to help share your content out. And obviously, I'm grateful now. I have a lot more than just a few hundred people now helping me out. But I think that's really the secret. But the other piece is a lot of people, when they want to become YouTubers, Shemaya, they don't have a mission. Because it took me 2.5 years to get to 10,000 subscribers. So I hit 25,000 yesterday, which is a big deal for the community, because it took me 3.5 years to get to 25, but it took me 2.5 just to get to 10. So it was one hell of a grind, and I really had to put in that work. So I think the advice I would share with people is you need to think about YouTube on the span of 10 years, not 10 days. Where do you want the channel to be a decade from today? And if you don't have that mindset, you just won't be successful on YouTube. But also you need to have the passion for what you're sharing with people so that you last 10 years. If I was making prank videos, I would have gave up a long time ago. But communication is so important for me to share with the community that even when my channel was small and I had like 100 views a video or 70 or even 50, I kept going, I kept pushing because I knew who those people were and I knew it was helping them. And that's really the most important piece there.
Once again, listen to I'm Refocused Radio, talking to our guest today, Brenden, the founder of MasterTalk. And he is the one that helps coaches, amazing professionals. We're talking about executives and entrepreneurs to help them to become the top 1% communicators in their own industry. And as we're talking about your success with YouTube and how you've been building your channel, it kind of drives back home to what we were planning to talk about as the topic for today, and that is how to become a top 1% communicator in your own industry. All that, what you just shared moments ago, talking to people, asking them to help you get to your first 1,000 subscribers and so on and so forth, and the mindset of what do I want to see my brand 10 years versus 10 months or 1 year or 5 years from now, that all comes together with communication. And when you are communicating with yourself, is that part of the process too? Like how you talk to yourself to prep yourself and coach yourself to get your mind, clear so that way you can take the action? Is that part of the process?
Absolutely, brother. I do believe the mindset, the preparation, the way that we think about our lives really helps us get into that top percentile category. But I think the biggest one is consistency. The consistency to be willing to show up. Like for me, I'm always proud to say this, I haven't missed a week since I started YouTube in January of 2019. So it's been what, 3 years and 7 months now that I've started the channel. I have never missed a weekly upload, like not even once. And hopefully it doesn't happen. It might happen once in my career, twice. But I think the idea is consistency is what gets people to believe in you. And especially in the context of being a top 1% communicator, how does consistency play into some exercise that people can do, Shemaya, to get better in their way of communicating ideas effectively? So I'll give you 3 easy ones. I call it my easy threes, but it's so easy that nobody does them. I think that's the way I phrase it. So the first one is the random word exercise. Pick a random word like pistachios, tissue box, roll paper, and give presentations out of thin air. And what I always tell people is if you can make sense out of nonsense, you can make sense out of anything. So do the random word exercise once, twice, 3 times a day, and you'll be much better. Do this with your family as well. That's 1. 2 is question drills. We get asked questions all the time, Shemaya, in our life, in our relationships, but a lot of us are reactive to those questions versus proactive. So people ask us questions, we go, oh, like somebody asked me the other day, where does the fear of communication come from? And I was like, I don't know, San Diego, Los Angeles. Like, you don't really know sometimes when you get asked questions and you're trying to figure out the answer. So what you do with question drills is you spend every day reflecting for a few minutes a day on the answer to the question. And you do that every day. 1 question. What do you think the world will ask you about your expertise, about your life? And if you do that for a year, you'll have answered 365 questions about your expertise. And then last exercise, and I'll throw it back to you, Shemaya. It's so simple and so transformative that nobody does it. Make a list of the 5 people you care about the most in your life. Your friends, your family, your nieces, your nephews, your kids, your family, friends, and ask yourself a simple question. When was the last time you sent them a video message? And the answer is never. It's a 20-second video message. Hey, Shemaya, just thinking about you. Love what you do at the podcast. Hope you're having a beautiful day. Nobody does it, Shemaya. So I encourage people, like the top 1% do, send video messages to people that you love. Send video messages to clients because that will make you more comfortable on camera and see communication for what it is, which is a tool for impact.
That's the whole package of something that can transform your life, not just let alone help bring change, because it's also recreating new habits versus extending the bad ones that you may not be aware of. I had someone on my show that talked about people can live their life in such a way where they have blind spots, but they can be ignorant and not know they have a blind spot until someone that, cares about them and, wants to see them do well or better or whatever will actually point them out and say, hey, you've been ignoring this for a long time. I mean, for you, where there are times where you got to say, okay, you know what? I've been kind of neglecting this area. I can stop doing that, recorrect that, and I can make even more progress with my goals that I'm trying to reach.
Absolutely, Shemaya. I mean, it's a great question. There's so many roadblocks that I had, especially when I was younger. I think the biggest mistake I made was I was very stubborn. So I'll tell you a funny story. When I started MasterTalk, I had this brilliant idea, and by brilliant, I'm being sarcastic here in case people aren't catching it, of sending 50,000, and I really mean 50,000, emails to university college professors across America and Canada just to share my YouTube videos. Because obviously, if you think about it, it is smart in theory, because if the university professors like me, they'll share it with the students and every student that they'll have in their classes for the rest of time, basically while they're teaching. And that ended up being wrong, because what ended up happening is I got a bunch of FUs basically when I sent all these emails. A lot of these professors just said, who are you, kid? Like, first of all, you don't call me by my first name. They just started insulting me with a lot of these emails. But I got stubborn. I just kept sending the emails. And all summer for 90 to 100 days, I sent 500 emails a day. So I sent 40, 50,000 emails and until I gave up after 50,000. When what I should have done, but I didn't know it back then, Shemaya, I should have sent those emails to 50,000 podcast hosts if I had done that, because those are the people who are open-minded, those are the people who want to hear new ideas like yourself, and that community wants to get better at communication because they want to be better hosts. If I wasn't stubborn and I didn't just test out 1,000 emails and just go, okay, I'm not getting any responses, let me try something different, I probably would have been more successful today, and my count would probably be 5 times bigger than where it is right now. And I think that's a big lesson: is don't get stubborn. Try it, test it out, give it a fair shot, but don't overcommit to something if it's not working. And that's a big lesson I learned over time.
Once again, listen, I'm Focus Radio, talking to our guest, Brenden, founder of MasterTalk. And like you just said, man, if you would have hit up those podcast hosts, man, you'd probably be on every single show that ever existed. I mean, you probably like have like a documentary. Like that would be a fascinating documentary. A guy who,
that'd be funny.
How in the world did you find all the podcasts in the world, number one, and two, had the time and courage to do all the interviews? Because I'll be like, man, you need like a sponsor with, you know, a water company, because you're gonna be thirsty. I mean, man. But yeah, that's just my way of having my little jokes. But when you are helping people not just communicate better, you also helping their image become clearer and sharper. How important is that for the individual that you are coaching to not just understand they're presenting themselves in a certain way to the online presence and in-person presence, but they're also building their foundation for years to come?
I would say for me, communication is like a multiplier effect. Think of it like dominoes, where you have one domino that falls, and then once one falls, all of them start to follow. Communication is the same way. Let me give you a simple example. If I tell someone to smile in presentations, I tell someone to do video messages, I tell someone to do the random word exercise, question drills, the things that we talked about today, what happens is you don't just get better at presentations. You get better in every kind of communication. Simple example. Let's say tell somebody to smile when they're doing the random word exercise. They're not just going to do it in presentation, Shamaya. They're also going to start doing it with their friends, with conversations, when they're having coffees, when they're meeting new people, when they're going on dates, when they're talking to their family. These lessons get reapplied into all areas of communication, not just one vertical. And I think that's the beauty of communication, is that the 0 to 1 is hard. To get somebody to do the random word exercise is like moving a boulder, Shemaya. That's why I don't say a lot of tips. It's not because all the tips are available for free on the channel, right? It's because I really want people to take away the most important lesson from today, which is the best way to speak, Shemaya, is to speak. You actually can't just listen to me all day. You can't just listen to you all day. You actually got to do the random word exercise. You actually got to send the video messages. And then when you do that, and you're focused on the doing, not the writing, not the listening, but you're actually taking the mic yourself, that's when you actually start getting better at communication. So I would encourage people not just to write the lessons down and say, oh, that's a cute tip. That's cool. Yeah, look what these guys are doing. No. Take the most important lesson, which is I need to book 5 minutes in my calendar tomorrow. I need to book 15 minutes in my calendar tomorrow. Do the random word exercise, send the video messages, do the question drills, and you will get the result and change your life in the process.
I mean, everything you said is perfect. You have to understand that there are some introverts out there, and I haven't forgot about y'all, because I know it's like I used to be introverted myself, and I still am to a certain degree. But obviously, since I'm in front of this microphone, that's a lie. I'm not as much of an introvert as I used to be, aka shy. But for those who are introverted, everything that Brenden is saying today is something that you can really do. And Brenden, what words of wisdom do you have for the introverts out there who are just like, man, but I don't really want to do all that talking and sending videos and all that jazz? What would you say to them, especially if they do care about growing their presentation, their skill set of communicating their brand and their career, personal life, and growing their influence?
For sure, brother. I would say start by focusing on understanding why you're a better communicator than extroverts are. So this is very counterintuitive, is a lot of introverts don't actually understand their own strengths as communicators, that I actually struggle with at being an extrovert that took me a while to learn myself. So let's go through them. Number one, listening. Introverts, Shamaya, are just better listeners because they speak less, so they listen more. Extroverts like me, brother, we like to talk. That's why I'm a podcast guest. I'm yapping all the time. I'm talking. So I'm not listening. And when we don't listen, we don't adapt the messaging, what we care about, to the audience. That's number one. Number two is pause. Pausing is the most foundational element of communication, but a lot of people don't communicate effectively, or rather, they pause not enough. Whereas introverts are really good at pausing. They're really good at using that weapon, that technique, as a way to emphasize really important parts of their message. So I would say focus on the pause. And then the third piece that they do really well, that's not well known, is that introverts, Shemaya, are very accessible as communicators. Take Gary Vaynerchuk as an example. He's the CEO of VaynerMedia, love him to death, got a lot of respect for the guy. Gary is a very controversial guy. You either really like him or you really don't. That's the power of extroverted speakers, or rather the flaw, because you fall never in the middle. Whereas somebody like Brene Brown, Susan Cain, Simon Sinek, when you take those individuals, nobody says, I hate Brene Brown. Nobody really says that. But because of that, that leads us to the following. Introverts are more accessible, which means their message will actually get heard by more people. So understand your strengths and triple down on them would be my advice.
I mean, all of that is perfect. It's almost like you coached me before I even started this show, because great minds think alike. And I'm not taking credit for it because someone extended that knowledge and wisdom to me. You know, the best hosts are the ones who actually listen to the guests. You know, is someone who lets the guests tell the story versus, you know, I'll do terrible if I try to put my wisdom on this show's topic today about being in, you know, top 1% communicating in your industry. But that's not why I'm doing the episode, is because Brenden here is the expert. So everything you say is valid. A good listener will be listened to. I mean, it's almost like playing ping pong right now. It's perfect because you're giving me the space to kind of yap a little bit, but it's valuable because I gave you all that space prior. And I think that's an art that we all can also work at. And I'm going to let you have the last word. What would you say in response to what I was just saying about that, the art of listening?
Yeah, brother, I love that. And you're definitely a great example of that, being an introvert, or more introverted, of course. I would say listening is the following. Having the empathy to take the time to hear other people's opinions. And the way that we practice listening more effectively is not by simply saying you got to listen more, but rather analyze the following framework, which is this. Look at the percentage of questions versus statements that you communicate on a day-to-day basis. Let me explain what I mean here. A lot of the time, Shemaya, when we communicate, it's statement, 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 statement. I believe this. Well, I believe this. Well, I believe this. Well, I believe this. So when we do that, we don't listen. Whereas what the best communicators on the planet is, they do what you're doing right now, which is when somebody says a statement, they respond with a question. Well, I believe this. Well, why do you believe that? Why is that important to you? What is it about that piece that you find fascinating? Why does that matter to you? So when you ask more of these questions, you automatically become a much better listener because you're forced to listen. So what's the advice? The advice is look at the number of questions that you asked of other people today. And what you'll find is that answer is either 0 or it's 1. So the advice is bring it up to 2, bring it up to 3 every day. Ask a few more questions to the people around you. How was your day? How are you feeling right now? What's important to you? What do you believe about this? I just want to get your opinion on this bit more. And when you ask more questions, you will automatically improve your ability to listen to others as well.
Your first 1,000 supporters, not just fans, but supporters, they become your family. They become, relatable, right? Because they have stories as well. Why they wanted to subscribe to your content, because it had that value system that they believed in. You know what I'm saying? So when you have the opportunity to grow, you get that opportunity to leave a legacy and leave an impact. And it's almost like paying it forward, because as you're doing it with your brand, with your coaching, you also are doing that for others, become that next leader, become that next influencer, become that next XYZ. But they can do it now using the tools that you laid for them to pick up and put in their toolbox.
Wow, that's so much wisdom, man. Thanks for sharing that. I completely agree. I especially loved your point around the community. It's so true, because the people who subscribe to your channel have a story as well. as to why they did. And those stories are actually more important than anything else. And I'm glad you highlighted that. Very well said, man.
So once again, man, we've been talking to Brenden here on I'm Refocused Radio and his amazing YouTube channel, MasterTalk. He's the founder of that, and he also coaches and help people with their own industry to reach that #1 spot. People are listening to this right now. They can go to one of your websites that you have, rockstarcommunicator.com, but they also have other resources that they can probably get from you. Can you do us justice and share with the audience some of the things that they can do, call to action?
Yeah, for sure, brother. Yeah, rockstarcommunicator.com is the place. So I do a free training, a workshop over Zoom on communication every 3 weeks. Super fun. It's live, it's interactive, and people can join that through that link. So thanks for mentioning that for sure.
Those are our good guests today, Brenden. I want to say thank you for taking time in your schedule, sharing your wisdom and knowledge and story with I'm Refocused Radio. And we definitely appreciate what you had to offer.
Thanks, brother.
I Am Refocused Radio is brought to you by 404 Star and Holy Crab. 404 Star is a family-owned Asian restaurant in San Antonio, Texas. We have been a local favorite for Asian cuisine for over 10 years. With nothing but full smiles and fast service, you'll be leaving satisfied. Come on in for some authentic Vietnamese food. Holy Crab is one-of-a-kind Cajun Creole-style seafood restaurant located in Universal City, Texas. We offer traditional seafood items as well as chicken and steak. We also offer seafood boils. Come give us a try. You won't be disappointed. You can find these two eateries in Universal City, Texas at 2921 Pat Booker Road.